Hello, everyone. My name is Andre Grossberg, and I'm a 17-year-old kid. While in my English language arts class, that might not be the best way to get ethos, especially for a TED Talk, for me, it's been a time of great change and a time I want to share my thoughts as a young person. So, as for many other young people, this is a very formative part of their lives. They're going to high school where they're learning a lot about their passions, what they enjoy, making the friends that they may have for the rest of their life. They're going into college where they're finding their professions, what they may be doing for the rest of their life, finding their place in society. And they're also learning a lot about themselves, whether that be how to talk to girls or maybe learning that you don't like mushrooms. But what we're learning now will be the basis for how we're going to think for the rest of our lives. Another important part of this time of our lives is expectations. While expectations can be good, creating a goal and meeting that goal, I found that a lot of times it can create barriers in our minds and paralyze us from doing things. For example, in high school, many kids are scared that they won't get that perfect GPA, or if that they don't get into their dream college, that they won't succeed in the way they want to in life. I've also had the incredible opportunity to be a part of a robotics team here at Midtown High School, and I've gotten to work with some of the greatest minds of our generation, going to Stanford, Cornell, Yale. And even working with such accomplished students and talking with them, I learned that they're afraid to ask questions. They have a fear of making mistakes. And they even have a fear of reaching out in fear that they may be breaking this illusion of perfection, this expectation of perfection. So I decided to think about this and sit on it and think, what is this disconnect, this barrier in our minds that's being created? And the conclusion I came to is a fear of failure. Whether that be a fear of confrontation, a fear of being told no, or even a fear of looking silly in front of your friends. With this realization, I wanted to start applying this idea of breaking past this barrier in our minds and this fear of failure. This is a mug. While to most of the world and you all, it may just look like a mug, to me, it symbolizes my effort of trying to apply this idea to my life, breaking past this fear of failure. I had the incredible opportunity to dual enroll at the Georgia Institute of Technology. And one day I was studying in their library at the top floor, and I noticed that in between these two decks, they have a conference center where they have conventions for important stakeholders or professors at certain times. When I was standing there, I looked into the room and I noticed a table full of mugs, more mugs than the people that were actually in the conference room. And the first thought I had was, I would be super uncomfortable to go in there and ask for a mug. But because I had that mental block in my mind, that fear of failure, I knew I had to go ask. So I took the first step in making that effort to go ask for the mug. I stood up and I walked to the front of the conference center. I stood in front of that door for 30 minutes, thinking maybe I'll be bothering someone, maybe they'll say no, or I'm wasting my time. But I finally decided, you know what, I'm here, I have to go ask. So I walked into the room, and there was a woman standing next to a table. I came in and introduced myself, said, hello, my name is Andre Grossberg, and I was just coming in, I was curious to see what was going on, could you fill me in? And she replied, yeah, of course, this is the convention for the professors of the School of history and sociology for Georgia Tech. Currently, we're celebrating for the holidays. And I said, wow, that's super cool. I noticed that there's a table full of mugs and that there were a few extra, and I was wondering if I could have one. She looked at me a little strangely and said, are you an undergraduate student? I said no, but I wasn't going to tell her that I was some high school student. Then she asked me, so are you just a random person walking into the conference? And I said, yes, I am. She looked back at me and she said, well, here, I'm going to ask a professor and I'll see if we can get you a mug. So the professor comes and walks towards us and he looks at me and he asks the woman, so does this young man want a mug? And she was like, yes. I was like, yeah, if there's an extra one, I would love one. And he looked at me and he said, well, I'm not supposed to be giving away these mugs, but because you're the only person that built the confidence to come here and ask for one, you shall receive. And of course, I was like, oh, thank you so much. And I grabbed the mug and I scurried off. And I'm actually on my way down on the elevator. Some of the interns that were in that conference came over to me and commented, oh, I'm so glad you got that mug. That's so cool. I'm glad you asked. For me, the prize wasn't really getting the mug, even though it was a pretty cool mug. But it was overcoming that fear of failure and that expectation of perfection and going there, where the woman thought I was just some random person, and the professor even saying that because I was the only one to build up the confidence to go ask, that I shall receive. So with many experiences like this, I've tried to apply this in different areas of my life. I've also had the incredible opportunity to be a Georgia First Robotics State Officer. And one of the responsibilities of an officer is to support first from a student perspective. I wanted to apply this idea of breaking through this fear of failure to my leadership. And we've done amazing things because of it. One example is that in the beginning of my term, I began doing research on special needs accommodations in the Georgia First Robotics workspace. I wrote my paper and I reached out to a few Georgia Southern University professors about my paper, and they recommended that I submit a proposal to speak at a research conference. When I first heard the idea, my team heard the idea, we were like, we're not sure. We don't know if a national research conference would want some high schoolers going and speaking about something they did. But we said, you know what, we're going to give it a try and we'll see how it goes. We were accepted to speak at both the National Science Teaching Association Conference on Science Education, as well as the National Youth Advocacy Resilience Conference on our research on creating inclusivity for students with special needs in STEM education. Another fun project that we did is up here, which is our commentator's desk. In First Robotics, we have a lot of matches where teams of 3 robots go and compete in a different match and try to do different objectives. However, in between matches, there's a lot of rest time where many people can be bored, and for the actual game, there is a lot of time where people have to just sit in the stands because not everyone can work on the robot. We saw how in other state organizations that they created a commentator's desk that would entertain people before the competition started and would explain what was happening during competition in between matches. So it was one of our great officers' ideas to try to emulate this and create one for ourselves. However, all the other state organizations, this was made by professional audio-video production teams and adult mentors. And we were just a group of high school kids that wanted to try to make something cool. So we reached out to our director, and she said, you know what, you can use our off-season competition, and we'll see how it works. And that's where we did it. When we came in to film our production, the audio-video production team didn't even know that we were coming. But we kept going through, we pushed past that fear of failure, and we created an amazing production where we went live to over 400 live audience members and hundreds more online. And we got so much feedback, and people loved it. We had parents talking about how it made way more sense being between matches. The 2 hours before competition, all of the teams loved us where we created Kahoots and had an awesome time, and we interviewed many different stakeholders at Georgia First. And now, here. It was one of our officers' amazing ideas to organize a TEDx conference where we could spread our ideas and our experiences. And while at first the idea seemed a little far-fetched, just a group of high schoolers doing it, we decided to go for it. We got rejected so many times trying to get this license. So much so that on our fourth denial, we were banned from the TEDx page for trying to submit a proposal and get the license. We had to reach out to TEDx in order to continue trying to work on our presentation and work on our proposal so that we could get this license, and now here we are. None of this wouldn't have been possible if our team did not push through that idea of pushing through the fear of failure and the fear of the expectation of perfection and pushing through and asking for that mug. While many of you may not remember this talk very much, I hope that you'll come away with a feeling to be adventurous, a feeling to get out of your comfort zone, and an urge to maybe go ask for that mug. And I think you'll be surprised by how many mugs you'll receive. Thank you.